7-7, guys. I'm just gonna do the problems in the book on the paper. So I need more room. So we're doing the same thing as yesterday, but we're adding the part where you find out what C is. Yesterday we had the C in there. So now we're just gonna go through and plug in the X and Y and find out what the actual C value is. So to start this, I can't really separate it as it is, but if I squared both those things, just like distribute the squared through. Now I can. So I'll end up with like dy over y squared equals x squared times dx, which is probably easier to see what's going on if I do y to the negative second equals x squared times dx. And you don't have to, I mean, some of you I think could get there in one step, like from here to here. I'm not, you don't have to show, I'm just showing it off for like the purpose of explaining what's happening. And now that I have the variables separated, I'm gonna integrate, so the same stuff we were doing yesterday. So I'll get negative y to the negative first. Remember there's really a plus c there, but I'm just gonna put it on the other side. So 1/3 x to the third plus c. So we have two things to do. We have to find out what c is, and we have to solve for y. And you can do them in either order you want. So it kind of depends on the problem. The more you do, the more you start to be like, oh, I can kind of tell I'm supposed to do this one first. They'll both work, but it's like one might be easier than the other in some situations. It's not really that big a deal. Like I don't worry too much about it. But I'm gonna find, let's say we find c first in this one. So I'm gonna plug in, x is 1, y is 1. Because they told me y of 1 equals 1. So I'm gonna plug in 1 for x and y. And find c here, and then we'll solve for y. But then like maybe the next problem I'll solve for y and then find c. You gotta do both. Just pick one and do it first, then do the other. So my job here is to find c. So 1 to the negative first just flips over the 1, then it is negative. 1 cubed is 1, times 1/3 is 1/3. So I would get c equals negative 4/3. So then I would go back up to, this was my general solution. Did you just, oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, why'd you just repeat that? But now that I know there was a joke behind it, I'm on board. I go back to my, now I don't want to say it again, general solution. But I put, like I know what c is now, I'm smarter now. So I'll put the minus 4/3 there. So I found c, what's the other thing I have to do? Solve for y. So again, order doesn't matter. Maybe we'll just do this one again. I want to do it twice, I think, and show you both ways. So now I gotta solve for y. So I'm gonna multiply everything by negative. So y to the negative first equals negative 1/3 x to the third plus 4/3. Which, so I'm looking forward and I'm seeing, okay, to fix that negative 1 power, I'm gonna need to reciprocal that side, which means I'm gonna reciprocal this side. And the way it's written right now, it looks like a crappy thing that I don't want to reciprocal. So I'm just gonna take a step and go, well, that's really the same as that. And that looks a lot easier to reciprocal. You know what I mean? So I'm just combining those two using the common denominator. So it's negative 1 x to the third plus 4, and then 3. And now it's a lot easier to go through it. Okay, I'm gonna take the reciprocal of both sides. So y will equal 3 over negative x to the third plus 4. Questions on that method of doing it? Alright, I'm gonna do it the other way too. And maybe you just watch, I know there's not a ton of room there. But I'm gonna start from there. Everything's the same up until there. And then I decided to find c first and then solve for y. But let's let's just say I've done it the other way. It should work out the same, so let's make sure that, that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna solve that for y. So I'm gonna multiply everything by a negative first. So negative 1/3 x to the third. And then a negative times it. You can put minus c there if you want. It doesn't really make that much difference. A negative times a constant is still a constant, so I can do that. Now I gotta reciprocal this bad boy though. So let's just go y equals 1 over negative 1/3 x to the third. Plus c. So that's solving for y first, which means what do I have to do now? Find out what c is. And the point they gave me was 1 comma 1. So 1 equals 1 over negative 1/3 times 1 to the third plus c. This works. So 1 equals 1 over, this would be negative 1/3 plus c. And then I could like cross multiply. So 1 equals negative 1/3 plus c. And so c equals 4/3. Is that part okay with me? So now if I go back up to here and plug in c, I would get that, which, if you really want to make sure they're the same, this is like negative x to the third plus 4 over 3. And then you don't divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. So you would end up with this, which I think is what we had on the other page. It is. But that was a long way to go to show you that it doesn't matter the order. I'm just trying to show you it doesn't matter the order. Questions on any of the crap I just did? Right. Any tissue paper. 2 and 3 have a little bit different twist in them that are a little tougher. I would tell you just go ahead and try to, but it's got this little trick that I want to make sure we're doing together. And they give me the point 2 comma 1. So let's separate. So I'm just going to cross multiply. So y times dy equals 2x times dx. Then what? Now integrate. 1/2 y squared equals x squared. There's really a plus c in both spots, but I'm just going to do it on the right. And then we got to decide. So it's like, do we want to solve for y, or do we want to find out what c is? Anybody care? Anybody have a preference?
C1.
It's 1 to 1.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, you two rock, paper, scissors. Find it out.
Why?
You won? So what did you say?
Why?
Okay. Why? Because I want to know. Man, I'm funny. It's a table slapper. Alright, so let's find c. So let's double everything. And a constant times 2 is still a constant. And then y equals, be careful here, because it can screw you up. When I'm taking the square root, there are 2 of them. There's the positive and the negative. I may have just given away the constant. There's 2 of them. I don't really worry about this when I'm plugging in. It won't matter when I'm plugging in. Okay, let's go on. So there's a plus minus there. I knew it didn't matter, it just took me for a second to remember why. Let's square both sides. Because I don't want to work in the square root, right? So I'm just trying to find out, I want to be able to plug in 2 and 1 and square both. So let's plug them in even. 1 equals plus or minus 2 times 2 squared plus. This is not a new new step, it's just me rewriting all the garbage I just kind of crossed out up there. So then I plug in my y and my x. So what's the next thing we could even get to here? Because 2 times 2 squared is 8. But what's the next thing you would do in this spot if you were trying to find out what c is? You'd square both sides. So the plus or minus will then go away. Because like, it doesn't matter if it's plus or minus. When you square it, it's plus. So I get 1 equals 8 plus c. C is negative 7, not positive 7. So then I gotta go back and go, okay, that means y equals the plus or minus is still there. 2x squared minus 7, I'm just putting my c in that place. So I did the y part. I'm sorry. I kind of just did both, didn't I? Yeah, I did both. But I'm not, so let me stop there. Are there questions on what I did? I kind of feel like I went too fast. Are we okay? Alright. But now you gotta decide this plus or minus thing. So you use the point they gave you. They gave you 2 comma 1. And only one of those will make this work out. So if I go 1 equals positive square root of 2 times 2 squared minus 7, or 1 equals negative 2 times root squared minus 7. Only one of those is going to be a true statement. And you pick the one that's a true statement. So this one's false. Let me show you why. Because you would get 8 minus 7 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1. But then there's a negative. And this one ended up saying 1 equals negative 1. So that's no good. This one, 8 minus 7 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. Positive 1 equals positive 1. So then, now we know that the positive 1 is the only one that works. We rewrite it and we just remove the plus or minus because we know it's positive. We know it's plus. How'd that one seem? Questions I can answer? Alright, let's do 3. So I'm going to divide by y plus 2, multiply by the dx, and I'll end up like that. And then I'd probably just bring the y plus 2 up, because that's more the form we're used to seeing it. Now I integrate, right? That's the natural log of the absolute value of y plus 2. That's e to the x plus c. What did we do last time? We found y first last time? Alright, so let's do c first this time. So we're going to plug in 0 and negative 1. So natural log of the absolute value of negative 1 plus 2 equals e to the 0 plus c. Don't need the absolute value signs anymore because that's positive. What's the natural log of 1? 0. What's e to the 0? 1. So that means my c is equal to negative 1. So far so good? Okay. So now I go back. I kind of rewrite this guy with the c included. So now it's ln of y plus 2 equals e to the x minus 1. I'm going to raise both sides. Wait, what's the word? Big vocabulary word, exponentiate. So that gives me the absolute value of y plus 2 equals e to the power of e to the x minus 1. This is another spot where you have 2 possible answers. It might have been a while since you guys looked at this, but if I give you like the absolute value of x equals 10, how many answers are there? There's 2, right? Isn't this the same as saying x has to equal plus or minus 10? Because either one of those that you plug in, the absolute value is going to be 10. So just like the square root, there's the positive and negative possibility. When you have this ln, or that's the value, there's the positive and negative possibility also. So we're gonna have y plus 2 equals plus or minus e to the power of e to the x minus 1. And then I want y by itself. So subtract 2, right? What, you guys good?
Yeah, I
You're not-
thought the absolute value might have disappeared when you naturally logged in, but if that's not the case, then that's a conceptual misunderstanding that I should clear up.
Say your thing again.
I thought when you natural logged in that the absolute value just kind of like disappeared, but if that's wrong, then I should probably know that.
If it was a number, like when we did it up here, it was a positive number. And the absolute value just turns things positive, so it was already fine.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know what that is. So I don't know, like, let's say it was y plus 2 equals 10. There's two possible answers. You'd have to set up y plus 2 equals plus or minus 10 basically and solve both of those. So it would end up like y equals 8 and y equals negative 12. Because either one of those, this makes sense to you.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm doing here. I guess it just depends whether there's a number or a variable on the inside.
I thought that like in the last lesson, the absolute value things dropped when you're solving for one.
I believe that was because we weren't finding C. Do you have a specific one? I'll look at it. Like I'll look at the answers and see if I can be more clear about like what's going on there. But let's finish this one. So I get y equals plus or minus e to the x minus 1 minus 2. Like I wanted to move that 2 over. Aside from the absolute value, if there are other questions still there, and I'll look that up and clarify. I want you to try to find out if it's the positive or the negative. You already did. Well, aren't you?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So here's where we're at with the plus minus. So I just set up both equations. It's either got to be, when I plug the x and y in, it's either got to be true that it equals the positive version or the negative version. The nice thing is if you forget to even check this, you got a 50% chance of being right. But this one up here, what's e to the 0? 1. 1 minus 1? 0, but then e to the 0 again. 1. 1 minus 2? Negative 1. So it's that guy. And I can just say, like I don't even need that anymore. It's the positive version. Question on that, except you guys want me to clarify when we're supposed to do the two things. I get that. Alright, you guys start working? Nice spread, I'm not worried about.
You saw what I did. You saw what you saw. It was like
saying.